is Didge Martin, and this very first vlog of mine will be all about books. As you might have noticed, I have quite a few books, but I'm not really an avid reader. I just love the feeling of having these books. There's something about reading that gives you some sort of fulfillment, and it strives from time to time. In the words of Jhumpa Lahiri, that's the thing about books. They let you travel without moving your feet. Alright, so here are the books that I have read during the quarantine period. Not much to begin with, really, but if you're going to look at my humble bookshelf right here, I have read almost all of these books throughout the duration of my high school life, my college life, and of course, my life as a professional. And if you're going to take advice from me, I'm not really an avid reader, like I said in the introduction. I'm here to just discuss or summarize these books and give my own personal thoughts, and how can I also encourage you to read books as young as you are or even as old as you are right now. Alright, first book. This is by Albert Camus. It's called The Plague. Just imagine a 1947 version of 2020. Basically, this is like the coronavirus, but set during the 1947. Albert Camus wrote this. I think he was really inspired by plagues. Not really inspired, but he had an idea on how to incorporate a novel by studying plagues like the bubonic plague, Italian plague during that time. And this is really a quite interesting read, because when you read this in 2020, it's really eerie and it's weird that almost everything that has happened here is what's happening right now, and this is like 50 to 60 years ago. So this follows a fictionalized town called Oran, and the protagonist's name is of course Dr. Ryu, and Dr. Ryu is like a reflection of Albert Camus himself. The people in this town, this fictionalized town called Oran, they don't really know themselves. They don't interact with each other. Basically, it's like a boring town. And then one day, a certain rat dies, an animal, which is weirdly the same as how the coronavirus started. And then one rat, and then followed by 100 number, and then thousands of rats already died. And of course, it eventually infected humans. But what happened here is that, quite like I said, the same with what's ever happening in the coronavirus, the people here weren't really convinced that there will be an epidemic that will happen in their town, so they didn't follow their government protocols, health protocols. To summarize, the plague killed almost half of the population of the town Oran. The protagonist, Dr. Ryu, of course, tries to find a cure as the government quarantines people and produce health protocols to help avoid the disease or the virus from spreading. But of course, as half the population dies, Dr. Ryu becomes stoic. He kind of has hatred in himself that he can't really find a cure, as there are so many casualties at that moment. Perhaps Albert Camus is trying to tell all of us, since he is kind of a nihilist and existentialist at the same time, that we will always be, humanity will always be doomed by a certain plague. Might not be a literal plague like a virus or a disease, but of course, all the kinds of problems that we face, death itself, and that kind of abyss that we all fall into, and which he calls the absurd. It is also worthy to note that the church in this fictionalized town is trying to say that the plague is a punishment from the gods. Kind of the same as how church authorities would label the coronavirus as evil or some sort of comes from the devil, some sort of explanation. To summarize, I think I'm giving now my personal interpretation. I think Albert Camus is trying to tell us that we will always have the absurd within us. Kind of the same as to saying that we'll always have a different kind of problem, no matter who we are, what status we have in life. And of course, we are here to always fight that plague within us, that absurdity that we feel whenever we don't feel Christmas, or 2021 is not really welcoming, those kind of stuff, that loneliness that you feel, or that kind of anxiety, whatsoever problem that you're facing because of the pandemic probably, or just because you don't feel right, you don't feel like yourself, those are your plagues, and that's the absurd. Kind of is linked to, of course, a perspective wherein you battle these kinds of feeling. And sometimes, as a consequence, you tend to become like Dr. Ryu, Sometimes someone who becomes stoic, someone who hates himself or herself just because he is feeling the plague or cannot find a cure for his own plague. To borrow a few words from Albert Camus himself, at such moments, the collapse of their courage, willpower, and endurance was so abrupt that they felt they could never drag themselves out of the pit of despond into which they had fallen. Sometimes we really fall into these kinds of problems that we face, and we don't encourage ourselves to get up. We don't really do something about it. And as a consequence, then again, is that we will always be fed into an abyss, or we always fall into an abyss of our own absurdities in life. And now, I'm not telling you that you need to face them right now and just go and fight all your battles and win the war of raging thoughts of your mind. But again, in contrast, I'm trying to tell you that you need to learn how to control these kinds of plagues that has been happening or have been happening in your life, so that you can also try to manipulate them in a way that they won't become plagues anymore in the future. So that's it. That's Albert Camus' The Plague. I guess it's the end of the video. Actually, I will not really go on and on, have a 15-minute to 20-minute video explaining all the books that I read this quarantine. I'm going to make it kind of a 5-part series. So if you're really interested in those kinds of videos, make sure to also watch the next videos that I'll be producing. And if you like this video, I hope I gave you such good information, and I hope I helped you be encouraged in reading other books. In the next videos, we will be trying to uncover, Plato's The Republic. We have some Haruki Murakami books, and The Sky Hunter by Marilu, and this will be covered by the next videos to come. So thank you for listening, and I hope you're still here, and I guess Happy New Year.